Delighted to welcome you all to the special session organized by the IEEE Kerala chapter as part of the World Mental Health Day program. So today's session, titled Conscious Living for a Happy Life, promises to be an insightful and transformative experience as we delve into the profound aspects of mental well-being and conscious living. So, as you all know, mental health has never been more crucial than it is today, considering the various challenges and uncertainties that we encounter in our daily lives. It is a topic that requires our attention, understanding, and active participation. To shed light on this critical subject, we are honored to introduce our distinguished speaker, Dr. D.S. Harris Ram, Associate Professor, EC Department at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Coimbatore. He is also a certified preceptor of the Heartfulness meditation practice. So, without further ado, let me give a warm and enthusiastic welcome to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Harris. We are eager to embark on this journey towards conscious living and a happier life under your guidance. Sir, please.
So shall we start?
Yeah, yes, sir, sure.
Okay. So namaste and a very good evening to all of you. So before we get started, I would like to place a disclaimer. I am neither a trained psychologist nor a trained psychiatrist. Probably my only qualification for delivering this talk is that I have been practicing meditation for the last 20 years or so. And for the last 6 years, I am also a trainer who teaches the heartfulness meditation practice. So what you are going to see in this presentation may not be something which you would find in a psychology textbook. It is some points which I have gathered during my course of life as a meditation practitioner, and also inputs which I have taken from ancient Indian wisdom from the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and so on and so forth, Yoga Sutras and so forth. So that's it. So the title anyway you already know, Conscious Living for Happy Life. So let us go to the agenda. I'm not able to move the slide. Seems the page down, page up is not working. Any
Sir,
idea how to?
Sir, can you reshare it once again and check it?
Okay. Sometimes when you put it on slideshow, it plays this mischief, right?
We can check it once again, sir. Once more.
Now let us see. Let us put it in slideshow again.
Not. Okay.
And now it's moving.
Uh,
Are you able to see the
yes.
slides moving?
Now it's
Yes.
an agenda. Now it's an
Yeah,
agenda.
it's in agenda. Yes, it's in agenda.
Can you move it out? Yeah, fine, sir. Fine.
It's moving, right?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get going. So yeah, this is the agenda. So we'll first look at the two phrases which are part of the title of the talk. That is happiness and conscious living. So that will be the first part of the talk. Then I will just throw some suggestions to bring conscious living into your daily life. And then we will go through a small demo. So we will go through a couple of very simple mental practices, mental exercises, which primarily would help you, would go a long way towards removing stress from your system. So that will be a practical session where you will be taken through a very simple, in fact, two simple mental exercises. So that will be the fourth part of the discussion. And then the last part of the discussion will be question and answers. So please feel free to ask questions related to the talk or in general related to this topic. So that will be the plan for the day. So we'll move on to the content. Yes, so first we'll look at what exactly, of course, there is no very hard and fast definition for happiness. So see, throughout the discussion, throughout the talk, I am just going to present a few points. So what I would request from the participants is you please reflect upon these points, introspect, and arrive at your own conclusions. So these are just some points which I have, as I mentioned, I have gathered through my experience as a practitioner of dhyana, practitioner of meditation, and also a student of spiritual science. Okay, so a lot of people have different notions, different definitions of what is happiness. Some people say if you are successful in your career, you can be happy. Or if you earn a lot of money, you can be happy. And there is a large class of people which believes that regardless of your success or the wealth that you accumulate, earn, if you have a healthy body and of course a healthy mind, then you are successful, you are happy. Okay, these are some of the definitions that we commonly encounter. And many of the so-called happiness indices, I think they are primarily constructed, they are primarily derived based on these ideas. Okay, it may not be entirely false. I'm not saying that these beliefs, these ideas are to be completely rejected. But what we should understand is happiness doesn't come from these alone. It might be a necessary condition. We know about necessary and sufficient conditions. So to some extent, yes, all these factors might contribute to a person becoming happy. But there is one common factor among all these factors, or among all these aspects. That is, all these are factors which are outside us, external factors. So if you analyze these ideas of achieving happiness, then you would see that they are based on fulfilling some external needs. And as long as these external needs are satisfied, you are happy. It's like a child or a person who likes ice cream, right? So we are happy as long as we are able to binge on that ice cream. The moment the last spoon is eaten up, then again you become dissatisfied, you become disturbed, and you feel like having more. So basically, what I need to convey here is that we always crave for happiness. And all these pursuits, just as I said, I just gave the ice cream as an example. So it symbolizes all our external pursuits, satisfying our hunger for food or hunger for wealth or hunger for a good career. So all these pursuits are primarily driven by an inner need to become happy. You are trying to satisfy an inner craving through an external conduit, through an external means. And as long as this external factor is very, very jittery, it's not guaranteed to stay forever. So as long as that factor, it might vary from person to person. As long as that external factor is there, you are happy. Once it vanishes, you are disturbed. So just think over. This is my conclusion from analyzing these topics. So the question arises, okay, the external factors apart, the question arises, why do we crave for happiness? That is simply because happiness is our natural state. Of course, I think no one will agree with when I say happiness is our natural state. But I'll give you a very simple proof for substantiating the statement. See, all of us sleep every night. Of course, nowadays, the daily routine has gone topsy-turvy. I see a lot of students who sleep during the daytime. Anyway, generally, you can say that night time is for sleeping. So when we sleep, what happens? First, we go through a drowsy, sleepy state. Then we go through what is called a dreamy sleep, rapid eye movement phase, when we are aware. And finally, we become completely shut off. All awareness vanishes. And we come to know that we slept. Of course, this will happen only if we sleep soundly. We will come to know that we had a sound sleep only when we wake up in the next morning. So during that deep sleep phase, we are completely blissful. Our mind is not there. The awareness of our body is not there. So we are perfectly blissful. We are perfectly happy. So this is one proof which all our ancient seers put forward for substantiating the statement that happiness or bliss would be the more appropriate term. In our ancient wisdom, they used to call it as Satchit Anandam. Anandam means it is something much beyond happiness. Happiness always has a duality, happiness and unhappiness. Whereas Anandam is something which transcends this duality. I hope you understand. So that is our natural state. And there is no better proof than our state during sleep. The only difficulty there is that we are not aware of it. If we are aware of our condition when we are sleeping, then we have attained bliss. So that state we go through every night. Every night when we undergo the deep sleep state, we go through the state and we come out of it when we wake up. So I think you don't need any better proof than that for the fact that happiness or bliss is our natural state. I am using happiness because it's a more commonly used word. The actual word which I should have used is bliss or anandam, right? Complete freedom. You just don't care about what happens outside. You are completely blissful, and you are completely blissful with awareness. When I say with awareness, I am saying that you are going through your normal duties, normal day-to-day life. At the same time, you are in a blissful state. It's not the please remember that it's not a state of a deluded person, a mad person. I mean, there are a lot of mad people who are also blissful. We are not talking about that. We are talking about a perfectly sane person who is going through his day-to-day activity, a perfectly so-called normal person. At the same time, he is in a state of bliss. So I hope you understand this. So basically, this state is something which is intrinsic to us, which is innate in us. So basically, due to various reasons, we move away from this state. And what happens is we don't know that we have moved away from this state. So what happens is we don't know how to get back. We don't know how to get back or how to regain that state. So what we do is we spend our time on various pursuits which help us regain the state momentarily. As I said, as long as these external instruments or external factors are there, let it be wealth, let it be success, even knowledge, all the material factors which provide us with this state, at least for momentary period. So we engage in these pursuits primarily to regain this blissful state. I hope you understand. And for animals, it's quite natural. See, animals at all different types of animals, the more advanced animals or the lower creatures, all these creatures are blissful. They are blissful at their own level. The reason is they are instinct driven. They don't have a choice. They are simply driven by instinct. So there is no notion of happiness. They are always in bliss. Because there is no question of desires, or there is no, they are just driven by instinct. When they feel hungry, they hunt for food. Or if the animal is a herbivore, it forages for some food. And when they feel the urge to procreate, they go through the mating process. And there are a lot of animals which go through hibernation during the winter. These are all completely programmed in their system. They don't have a choice. Now, the problem arises in human beings because we have a choice. We have a higher intelligence, which has enabled us to achieve a lot of amazing things, all the advances we have made in technology, our lifestyle, and so on and so forth. There is no denying that. Medicine, we have definitely achieved a very good quality of life, but it also comes with a lot of strings attached. Because of this higher intelligence, we have lost track of what we really need. We have completely lost track. We are just acting as automatons who are completely guided by our external environment. So what happens is we don't know how to distinguish between our needs and our wants. Of course, our needs are more basic. The most basic needs are, you know that, food, air, water, clothing. These are very fundamental needs that are required for us to survive. And there are specific context-based needs. For example, if there is a person who is sick and in need of blood, at that point of time, that particular group of blood is his need. Or if a person wants to reach a particular place in a short time, maybe I am asked to go to Delhi for some official purpose, and I want to be in Delhi tomorrow, then catching a flight immediately is my need. So there are basic needs and there are context-based needs. Then you have wants, which are basically our own creations. That is probably because of our preconditioning. We may have some specific tastes, some specific desires, which need to be satisfied for no particular reason. I mean, that is not going to help us survive or help us in our day-to-day life, but we are simply conditioned. So we go after these desires. And what are the reasons? There are so many reasons. Primarily, it is our preconditioning. Each human being is born and programmed with a lot of preconditions. Of course, I am not going into the philosophical aspect of that. You might have heard about karma and things like that. So each human being has a lot of preconditions. And based on that, he or she is driven. And the desires are basically the outcomes of these preconditions and one's environment. And we go after satisfying these desires. So the question is, should we be completely desireless? For that, there is a very simple test, right? You have something called desires and you have something called aspirations. So it's very easy. Just ponder over your desires, right? If you are getting a desire, just ponder over it. Now, after satisfying this desire, will it give you a permanent happiness? Or will it further fuel your desire? On the other hand, aspiration is something higher. And please remember that one important distinguishing factor is that aspiration has a more selfless element in it, whereas desires are always more selfish. Generally, aspirations are those desires. Maybe you can also call them as desires, but the difference is that they are aimed at a higher purpose. Of course, there will be some selfish element. You may be interested in achieving something. It's fine. But at least you are fulfilling a more altruistic, a more noble purpose. That is aspiration. So if you work for an aspiration, you will be always contented. You will be always happy that you are contributing to the welfare of the world as a whole. Maybe the humankind, maybe animals, maybe the entire creation. So that is the difference. It's a very simple test. So if I am running after a desire, if I am feeling distressed, if I am feeling disturbed, then it's a plain desire. Whereas aspirations are more deep-rooted and they are more selfless. So this is something which helps us shape our attitudes. This distinction. Of course, we need this. We need to discriminate between these two because we are human beings. As I said, unlike animals, we are not driven by instinct. In many situations, we have a choice because of our higher intelligence. We have a choice. That is why we have the notion of dharma, righteousness. Animals need not have an awareness of dharma because they don't have a choice. Whereas human beings, since they have a choice, there is a notion of right and wrong. In a particular situation, what is most appropriate? That is to be pondered over because you have a choice. So the notion of righteousness or the notion of dharma is something which is relevant only to the human race. For the others, it's not a problem at all. And this is what leads to distress. Because inside, all of us have a very higher noble self, which will rebel against anything that goes against righteous living. So that is called dharma sankadam in Sanskrit, dilemma, right? So this is the basic problem which keeps away human beings from their happy, natural, blissful state. So what is the solution? The fundamental solution lies in clearly understanding the distinction between the human mind and your real self. Okay, you may call this real self as God or Atman or whatever. You may be a believer, you may be a non-believer, whatever. It depends on your belief system. But I'll give you a very simple proof for the existence of the higher self. Because whenever even in a normal conversation, we use the phrase my body, my mind, right? When I say my mind, then I am implying something which is completely different from my body and which is completely different from my mind. So there is definitely, even in my experience, in all our experience, there is definitely something called a higher self. What we call it is irrelevant, but we need to understand, just ponder over it. Of course, I am not trusting all these ideas. You can reflect upon all this. So there is, at least from experience, it suggests that there is something called the higher self. And this higher self, the state of this higher self is always blissful, unconditionally blissful. It is not at all dependent on external factors, unconditionally blissful. And in all religions, in all belief systems, the seat of the higher self is the heart, right? So it is a kind of guardian angel which always guides you through the most appropriate path. The problem here is the path which it suggests may not be always easy, right? In Sanskrit, you have two terms called Shreyas and Preyas. Shreyas is something that is good, whereas Preyas is something which is always pleasant. So doing good need not be always pleasant, right? Sometimes it might be pleasant, sometimes it might be unpleasant. So listening to your heart and acting according to the dictates of the heart requires a lot of courage. And the beauty of the higher self is that when we are going in a proper direction, when we are acting in an appropriate manner, it remains silent because that's a natural way. But the moment we are straying even an iota from the right path, it starts rebelling. So there are a lot of people who don't have the courage to follow the dictates of the heart. And what happens? Stress. So basically, stress is the disharmony between your real self and what you are outside. So the key takeaway from all these discussions is that there is something called the higher self. In Sanskrit, one of the words that is used to describe this higher self is the Sakshi, the observer, the subject, who is always witnessing. He is not taking part, please remember that. He is just witnessing what happens in the mind, what happens in the body, what happens around. So if you are also in that state, whatever happens to you, you will treat it from the point of view of an observer. You will not be affected by it. And then your thinking will be very clear. And you will no longer be enslaved by your mind. Getting enslaved by your mind is like letting a car, just a human-driven car, right? Not an automatic car. Letting it go on its own, right? Just go wherever it goes. So if you are centered in your higher self, which is pure, which is blissful, then you can make your mind and your body your servant rather than getting enslaved by these instruments. So that is the key takeaway from this discussion. So I hope now you have a preliminary idea of what happiness and bliss is all about. Okay, with this understanding, we will go to the second part of the discussion. So we know, at least now we know what is our objective, what is our target. But we are still at the theoretical level. Now for achieving this state, what are the practical steps we can adopt in our day-to-day life? These are very simple steps, right? Very simple steps. All of us can go through, all of us can adopt these practices. Very simple. So the first thing is the definition of what exactly is conscious living. See, when we use the phrase, when we use the word conscious in normal day-to-day conversation, basically what we imply is a person who is not unconscious, right? He is aware of, he's seeing things, he is hearing things, he is aware of what is happening in the environment, in the surrounding. So that is the normal meaning that is associated with the word conscious. It is correct. It is partly correct. But here we are trying to expand that term, right? We are trying to combine a very large world which is outside this environment, and that is our own inner self, which is much more complicated. So if we integrate this with the external awareness, then we become totally conscious. Of course, there are other stages of consciousness, super consciousness, and things like that. These are very technical terms that may be out of scope of this discussion. Let us not go into it, but at least just understand that there is something called inner consciousness. Apart from being conscious of our environment, conscious living also implies that we should be conscious of what is happening inside in our mind every moment. So why do we need that? That is primarily because, as I said, the mind should be used only as an instrument. It should not be allowed to enslave us. And how is it possible? For that, you have to understand the working of the mind. See, basically, normally the impulses that we get from our mind are like a computer, right? The computer acts on its program and data stored in its memory. Similarly, in the normal sense, we think and act. So always we think before we act. So every action is preceded by a thought. So we have to pay attention to where it originates from. And how do we think? Our thoughts are primarily conditioned by our past experiences, which are imprinted inside, right? And this need not be always true. I'll give you a very funny example. See, all of us, just to understand this, I'll give you a very funny example. All of us are fond of flowers, right? Rose and other flowers. Now, of course, we know that rose has thorns. Now imagine a person who, when he or she was a small baby or small child, got pricked by a rose thorn, right? So he or she might have tried to pluck a rose and he got pricked by a rose thorn, and the wound got really nasty, and he had to be taken to a doctor, and it has to be dressed up. The whole thing was very messy. And this bad experience will be imprinted in that person. And what will happen is, from that time onward, whenever he sees a rose, his reaction will be that of fear and probably aversion, right? Whereas the general cross-section of people loves roses. But in this person, the reaction will be something totally different. It will be that of aversion, repulsion, right? So basically, the mind is conditioned by all these past inputs. So what will happen is, in many situations, it is this preconditioning that leads to a very automatic reaction, right? Sometimes it will be instinct driven, right? Because just like animals, we are also endowed with instinct that is required for our protection. Instinct is not something which we can completely do away with. I hope you understand, because, for example, when we take our finger near the fire, hand near the fire, we immediately pull back. And this has nothing to do with knowledge. Even a small baby will do it. You would have read about it. There are a lot of stories on how the baby's instinct has saved their lives. So, but sometimes the combination of this instinct and precondition makes us unnecessarily react to situations, right? So what happens is, we end up in trouble. We end up reacting when we were not supposed to do that. And what happens is, this further complicates the situation, and we get trapped in a kind of entanglement from which it's difficult to come out. So if we are watchful of our mind, if we are watchful of the impulses coming out of the mind every moment, then what will happen is, of course, we may have an urge to react, but then we will pause. we will pause and we will be prevented, because this is only momentary. If we fall for that moment, then it goes out of our hand. But if we are able to pause, then what happens is we will be able to respond more sensibly. So this is a very important aspect of conscious living. That is, if you are conscious, if you are constantly watching your inner self just as much as, or perhaps more than what you are watching your outer environment, then you will be able to respond appropriately in all situations. So I would recommend starting this practice. Just have an eye on your mind every moment. Of course, practices like meditation will help augment, increase this capacity. But even without that, if you are aware of this, the first step is understanding that there is such a difference between reaction and response. And there is a need to keep a constant watch on the impulses of the mind. If you first have this awareness, then half the job is done. Okay, it is not so easy. I mean, it's easier said than done, right? Because the reasons I have mentioned, some of the reasons, right? Preconditioning, we have already seen the rose example, the thorn example. Prejudice. Again, because of our prejudice, we may end up acting in a way which we are not supposed to do, right? So we may have prejudice against certain people, which will affect our attitude and affect our interactions with such people, and that will lead to further complications. This happens in our student life. It happens in the professional field, everywhere. See, whatever I am saying, it is as much applicable to students as for other professionals. So it is not something which is confined to the students or confined to the professionals. This is there everywhere. Then peer pressure, right? Because you are guided by your inner self and you are asked to do, you are dictated to do something from the inside, which you are convinced, you are very much convinced. But then your peers, they might go against it, right? So how good is your conviction? How good is your conviction so that you can withstand this pressure? Social compulsions, right? The need to make people happy. So that's what I said. Being centered in your inner self requires a lot of courage, a lot of guts. That is why Swami Vivekananda said, I need lions. So lack of clarity, again, that is because of confusion. Because of all these reasons, in many situations, you will be confused. So you will not know whether to act according to your inner dictates or go along with the group, along with the mob. So this disharmony between our inner and outer selves is the cause for stress. So this conscious living, the attitude of conscious living, will help us avoid all these situations. And of course, practices like meditation will help, because it will stop you from getting guided by these preconditions, and you will be acting or not acting. There are many situations in which you need not act, right? So that will be guided by the actual need of the situation. So this is a very important aspect which will help you to achieve that bliss which I was talking about. Unconditionally. See, you may have problems, you may have failures, you may have disappointments, but whatever it is, internally, you will be feeling centered, right? You will not be unduly affected by all these factors. It's like the eye of a storm, right? Suppose there is a tornado or a cyclone or whatever. Do you know which is the most peaceful, calmest place? It is in the eye. It is the center of the storm. Where there is absolutely no movement. There is complete stillness. So our system is also like that. If we are centered in our higher selves, then we will be rock solid. We will be stoic. We will not at all be affected by any of the external ups and downs, right? Even ups can affect us. Too much of success, too much of wealth, we might get entangled in success, because a lot of people say that handling success is more difficult than handling failures, right? So what is the outcome? Of course, all of us have heard about that. So if we are allowing our life to be dictated by the impulses of the mind and our instincts most of the time, then what will happen is it will lead to stress. And what is the outcome of stress? Externally, it will lead to deterioration of relationships within our family, with our friends, with our colleagues, and so on and so forth. So we'll end up doing firefighting. And personally, it will affect our mental and physical health and well-being. So these are connected, right? Physical health and mental health are very much connected, because all of you know that many of the modern diseases, the so-called lifestyle disease, they are caused by stress. And the reasons for stress, you have it here. So this is what exactly is meant by conscious living. So I would request you to deeply reflect upon these ideas which I have thrown. Okay, now, as I said, some practical suggestions for conscious living. These are very simple suggestions. As I said, have an eye, always be watchful. Some people call it as mindfulness, being aware of what is happening every moment inside your body and inside your mind. So that will help you lead a more conscious life, where you respond rather than react to situations. It will help you keep your centeredness. And as I said, of course, spiritual practices can help. Yoga, asanas, meditation, all these practices can actually augment these efforts. One simple suggestion: watching your words. See, in Sanskrit, one of the terms that we use for letters is aksharam. Aksharam means that which is indestructible. Aksharam doesn't mean letters per se. Ksharam means destructible. Aksharam means indestructible. That means whatever you utter, it will remain in this world as vibrations forever, right? So by your words, once you utter something, it is difficult to take it back. So we have to be very, very careful. And even if you utter something negative, more than the person who is hearing it, it will affect the person who is uttering it. So we should be very, very watchful about our words. And whenever we take decisions, it should be in a calm frame of mind. If you are angry, confused, tired, exhausted, then avoid taking any major decisions. Of course, you can decide whether you want to take a idli or you want to go hungry. These are small things, but never take critical decisions based on a disturbed frame of mind, where you are angry, you are confused, or even tired, because your mind will not be centered. What I said about being centered is very much relevant here. And another very important attitude that you have to cultivate as part of conscious living is what is called acceptance. Accept situations, right? Of course, the first question that normally people ask is, if you're asking me to accept situations, are you asking me to remain passive, whatever happens to me? If somebody does some wrong to me, then should I just keep? No, that's not what is implied here. See, acceptance is not something related to your activities or your duty. It is something related to your attitude. If something happens, don't cry over it. Don't grumble. Don't cry over it. You accept that situation. It has happened. There is nothing I can do about it. It's like raining. See, can you control the weather? It's not possible. So similarly, acceptance is an attitude. So if something happens, the first thing is you have to accept it. Once you accept it, your mind is very clear. You're in a very clear frame of mind. Then you will be able to do what is appropriate in that situation. You are not being asked to remain passive. You have to act. If it is necessary to act, you have to act. But then it should not be, as I said earlier, it should not be in a confused frame of mind. If you are not willing to accept a situation, the turbulence which arises in your mind will prevent you from acting appropriately. See, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, the very first chapter is titled as Arjuna Vishada Yogam. See, Arjuna is in an absolutely confused frame of mind. So in the first chapter, the Lord doesn't utter even a single word. Right from the beginning to the end, Arjuna simply just keeps on grumbling. He just meanders. He makes so many statements. He's confused. So Krishna just keeps quiet. He just gives him a shoulder to cry on. That's it. So that he's first completely pouring out his trouble, and he's light inside so that he can receive what the Lord is going to impart, the advice that the Lord is going to impart. Right? So basically, accepting the situation will help you to maintain equanimity, a clear frame of mind. And in this frame of mind, you can very clearly decide what to do. So this is very important, and it doesn't mean remaining passive. Right? So that is one basic thing, very fundamental thing that will go a long way towards living a blissful life. Very much remaining in your very much performing your duties. The second thing which I have observed personally, see, these are things which some of them have been taken from scripture, some of them I have directly observed in my day-to-day life. Never compare. In many people who are very good achievers among my circle, I have seen that most of them are frustrated. They are brilliant people, right? Endowed with a lot of talent. But many a time they are frustrated because they tend to compare. So they tend to compare themselves with their peers, especially, and maybe others in their same age group. So this is something which basically relates to what I mentioned earlier. That is desire versus aspirations. See, if you are acting upon something which is driven by comparison, then it will give you distress, because there is no inner conviction, right? You are doing that because you want to be like the next person, be like your friend. So that will lead to a lot of frustration. So you can aspire for something that comes from your inside. That goal is something which comes from your inside, and you have a lot of conviction, and you will give your heart and soul to it. But if some act is dictated by comparison, then it will end up in frustration, right? Please reflect on this. Okay, again, coming to acceptance, there is a beautiful saying. This is attributed to an American theologian, right, or theologian. His name is Reinhold Niebuhr. It's a nice statement related to acceptance. So he's praying to God, and what is the prayer? He wants God to give him the courage to change what must be altered. See, there are so many things which we can change, right? Of course, that requires a lot of courage and serenity to accept what cannot be helped. See, you should have the grace, you should have the serenity or grace to accept what cannot be changed. There are so many things which are beyond our control. So we have to accept what cannot be changed. And the insight to know the one from the other. That is the problem. How do you know if you can change a thing or it's beyond your capability? That is where you need an insight. And how do you get the insight? You get the insight by remaining centered in your higher self. Then you will clearly get the insight. So this is a very important point that I would like to stress. Then, of course, small acts of kindness, right? Service, community service, especially service with our, in Hindi, they call it as kar seva. Do something with your hands, do something with your body, which involves physical effort. So this will go a long way. And kindness, every day, every moment, we get a lot of opportunities to help others. So be aware, if there is a need, we should be willing to help unreservedly. Respect to elders, very important. Service to parents, paramount. Service to parents comes above everything else, above even your career, even your career. We should be willing to sacrifice even because service to parents is not a choice. It's a duty that is entrusted with all of us. Service to the community, it is the same thing. So these are not charity, right? These are not charity that we are doing. These are very much part of our duty, our bounden duty to serve our elders, serve our parents, and serve the community. Some more suggestions. Being in a state of perpetual gratitude. Of course, all of us know the general meaning of gratitude. Gratitude is something which we express if somebody does a favor. That is a normal meaning. But here I am not talking about that. Of course, that is required. Here I am talking about a higher gratitude, right? You have to be grateful for whatever you get in life. There are so many positive things we have. Be grateful for them. And the advantage is it will help us ignore what we don't have, right? So if you focus on what you have, then it will help you ignore what you don't have and will help you remain in a happy frame of mind. Partaking of your meals. Taking food is a very, very important part of our day-to-day life, because what we eat, it goes into every cell, in every nook and corner of the body. So the attitude with which we partake of our meals is extremely important. This is something which all of us, including myself, ignore many a time. We should not eat in a very automatic fashion. Eating should be done consciously. That means at least in the back of our mind, we should have a prayerful attitude while eating. And it is better to give a suggestion that the food, anyway, it is going to go to all the cells in our body. Just give a very subtle suggestion at the back of your mind that the food which is going to every cell in the body is helping all the remove all the negativities inside. Please try it and observe the results. Of course, it has to be done consciously. And of course, you need not make any show of it, like closing your eyes. Maybe it may not be possible when you're eating in public, but have a thought, have a suggestion at the back of your mind that the food is helping remove all the negativities in every nook and corner of the body. This will make the act of eating itself prayerful, blissful, and never curse while eating, even if the food is not good. Very difficult, right? But try it. And one more point is have a feeling of thankfulness, gratitude for whoever is responsible for bringing that food to your table, the person who cooked it, the person who cultivated it, the person who brought the grains, and so on and so forth, whoever is responsible. Okay, I'll wind up with a few points from the Yoga Sutra and from the Gita. So in the Yoga Sutra, there is a beautiful saying for Chitta Prasadana, a serene mind. When do you have a serene mind? You have a serene mind when you have a feeling of friendliness towards someone who is happy. That means you are not jealous of that person. Friendliness towards the happy people. Sympathy towards the suffering. That doesn't mean an attitude of sympathy alone. If possible, we should help them physically. Joyfulness towards the good deeds. That is called punya. Punya. So if somebody does good deeds, again, don't criticize them, because all of us, at least many of us, have the attitude of finding fault with someone who does something good. Feeling of joyfulness, appreciate them. And indifference towards bad deeds. If somebody is doing something bad, something negative, ignore it. See, again, it's very tricky. Please remember that if correcting that person is your duty, you have to do it. Or if punishing that person is your duty, you have to do it. But if there is nothing you can do about it, as I said earlier, it has to be accepted. Maybe you can pray for the elevation of that person, for the improvement of that person. But there is nothing much we can do about that. So ignore it. Indifference towards bad deeds. So if you cultivate this attitude, Patanjali Maharshi, who has compiled the Yoga Sutra, he says that you can have what is called Chitta Prasadana, a serene mind. And removing malice, hatred. Whenever someone has done wrong to us, of course, it is natural to feel hatred. But harboring this feeling of hatred is like holding a burning piece of coal in your hand. So who is getting affected? Only I am getting affected. Right? That person is not going to get affected. So if you harbor this feeling of malice, hatredness, it will consume ourselves. So removing malice is extremely important. And how do you do it? You cannot just remove it, because the human mind always requires some thoughts as its food. So if you want to remove something, it is not possible to remove it. You have to replace it with something else. So Patanjali Maharshi says, Vitarka Bhade Pratipaksha Bhavana. That means if you have a negative thought, replace it with the Pratipaksha, with the opposite. Right? So if you are feeling hatred towards someone, you replace it with a thought that the person is getting better, he is getting blessed, he is getting improved, he is going to be happy in his life. So replace it with that thought. So that will, at least even from a selfish perspective, it is required. So this is the attitude that is recommended in the Yoga Shastras. And from the Gita, of course, all of us know this, Padmapatram, being like the lotus leaf. When water falls on the lotus leaf, the leaf is not getting wet. So being in the world without being in it, right? That's called detachment. Detachment means it's not really running away to the forest. You are very much in this world, but you are not affected by it. You are doing your duty. You are living through the day-to-day life, but you are not getting affected. And please remember that the lotus itself, it is thriving in mud, right? Mud is compared to all the negativities of day-to-day life. So the lotus grows in that mud. It is not affected by that. So in the Gita also, cultivating happiness, cultivating love without malice, that is very much recommended. It's very much part of the prescription for a happy life. And being centered in the higher self. That is the most important thing. Because if you are able to do that, all the other things automatically fall in place. So with this, I am concluding my session. So there are two practices which I would like to take you through. One is heartfulness relaxation. Other is heartfulness limb cleaning. I have already shared a material with Rahul. Not Rahul, I have shared in the chat box. So I would request the participants to download this material. It gives instructions on how to do this, but I will quickly take you through this now. Heartfulness relaxation takes about 5 minutes. Heartfulness limb cleaning takes about 15-20 minutes, but let us condense it to 5 minutes because I think we are running out of time. It's already 9 o'clock. So what I will do is, first I will take you through heartfulness relaxation. Then I will take you through the heartfulness limb cleaning in a condensed manner. The actual exercise takes about 20 minutes, but I will quickly take you through it, maybe for 5 minutes. Then we will move on to the Q&A session. So I'll explain what heartfulness relaxation is all about. So before that, of course, if you want to start meditation, dhyana, right? I would be very happy to introduce it to you. Anyone who is interested in practicing, starting practice of meditation, you can either send me an email or call me at this number or send me a message. Please take a photo of the slide. Those who are interested in exploring this more deeply, you can feel free to get in touch with me. Okay, coming to heartfulness relaxation. Basically, what we are going to do is we are going to relax every part of the body, starting from the feet to the tip of the head. So we'll start from the feet and we'll make a suggestion that healing energy from Mother Earth is entering the feet. And part by part, we will be relaxing other parts. We'll go up from the feet to the calf, then to the knees, the thighs, the waist, stomach, and so on, till the tip of the head. It's a very effective practice, which is going to take you only about 5 minutes. And heartfulness limb cleaning is more deeper. In heartfulness limb cleaning, what we will do is, again, we'll use the power of suggestion. So we'll gently suggest that there is a divine light entering the body from the head. And it is going through, we will first start from the left part of the body. So it's going through the face, the neck, the left part of the chest, the torso, sorry, the left part of the chest, and then the arms. And when the divine light is flowing through these parts, it is removing everything. It is removing all negativities. And finally, it is going out through the fingers. Then we'll repeat the same exercise to the lower part of the torso, the thighs, and finally to the feet. Then the whole thing will be repeated on the right side. So this is the practice. The whole exercise will take you about 20 minutes actually, but I will condense it to 5 minutes. So shall we start this practice? Rahul?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll first start the heartfulness relaxation. So I would request all of you to gently close your eyes. Take a deep breath and let go. Once again, take a deep breath and let go. Now focus on your feet. Move your toes once. Now give a suggestion that healing energy from Mother Earth is entering your feet. And this is helping you relax your feet. Now your feet are feeling relaxed. Now feel your calf. Imagine the calf muscles getting completely relaxed by this healing energy. Now all the muscles in the calf are getting relaxed. Now feel your knees. All the weight and tensions are getting removed from the knees, and the knees are getting completely relaxed. Now feel your thighs. All the muscles in the thighs are now completely feeling relaxed. Now bring your awareness to the waist. The entire waist is now completely feeling relaxed. Now bring your attention to the stomach. All the muscles in the stomach are now feeling light and completely relaxed. Now bring your attention to the back. The entire back region is now free of all tensions and is completely relaxed. Bring your attention to the chest. The entire chest region is free of all tensions and is completely relaxed. Bring your attention to the shoulders. The shoulders are now getting completely relaxed and you are feeling them melting away. Focus on your arms, the upper arms, the elbow, the forearms, and the fingers. All these are now completely feeling relaxed. Focus on your neck. All the muscles in the neck are feeling completely relaxed. Bring your attention to the head. Sorry, bring your attention to the face, the chin, the lips, the nostrils, the eyes, the eyelashes, the eyebrows, the forehead, the cheeks, and the ears are completely feeling relaxed. Bring your attention to the head. All the parts of the head are completely feeling relaxed. Now the entire body from the tip of the head to the feet is totally relaxed. If there is any part of the body where you are still feeling discomfort, again, imagine that the healing energy is flowing to those parts and that is getting completely relaxed. Now the entire body is totally relaxed. Now we'll quickly go through the heartfulness limb cleaning process. Gently close your eyes, take a deep breath and let go. Imagine that there is divine light above the head. Now gently feel this divine light entering the left part of the body through the head. Now let this divinity flow through the left part of the face, through the neck, through the left part of the chest, through the arms, and flowing out through the fingers. And while flowing out, also give a suggestion that it is removing all the negativities in the path. All the negativities are being removed from the head, the left part of the face, the neck, the left part of the neck, the left part of the chest, and the left arm through the fingers. This process is actually to be repeated for about 5 minutes. Now gently taper off this process and bring back the divine light to the chest, left part of the chest. Now give a suggestion that this divinity, the divine current, it is flowing through the left torso, through the waist, left part of the waist, the left thigh, the knees, the left calf, and the left feet. And it is flowing out through the toes in the left feet. And while it is flowing out, give a suggestion that it is removing all the impurities in its path. Again, this is actually to be repeated for about 5 minutes. Now feel the entire left part of the body totally cleaned and totally light. Now gently bring back the divine current to the top of your head. Now the divine current is settled at the top of the head. Now gently let it enter the right part of your head. And through the right part of the face, the right neck, the right chest, the right arm, and the fingers of the right arm, the divine current is flowing out. And while it is flowing out, it is removing all the impurities in its path. Again, this is to be repeated for 5 minutes. At the end of this process, gently taper the flow and bring back the divine current to the right part of the chest. Now let this divine current flow through the right torso, the right waist, the right thigh, the right knee, the right calf, the right feet, and the toes in the right feet. And while it is flowing, again, make a suggestion that it is removing all the negativities in its path. And all the negativities are flowing out through the toes. Now the entire right part of the body is completely free of impurities and has become light. Now both the parts of the body have become balanced and they are completely light. All the impurities have been removed and the body has become pure. Complete this process by gently opening your eyes. So I hope you have got a hang of this practice. Actually, it is to be done for about 20 minutes. So you can try your hand at it, preferably after the day's work, because normally we accumulate all the stress during the working hours. So after the day's work, you can try this practice. So actually, it is the limb cleaning is to be done for about 20-25 minutes. Of course, I have just given you the procedure. You can expand it to the actual duration that is prescribed. So I think we are now ready for the Q&A session. So I would be happy to answer questions.
Participants, if you have any queries, please ask.
Of course, if you want, you can type your questions in the chat box also.
Sir, as
Yeah.
we are aware about, yeah, there are so many uh, unknown practices inside the campus everywhere. So even including drug, any while we are talking with those people's the students, so they are talking about the stress, tension, uh, and care parents. At that time, they will mention all these reasons. So,
Okay.
is there any instruction that students by yourself? So that will be helpful, I think so.
Yeah, the point is, of course, all these practices are very much suited for students. But in my experience, what I see is once we give this training to the students, they don't take the initiative to practice these things every day, right? So there has to be at least some amount of what do you say, determination on the part of the students so that they can stay away from all these negative influences. So I think we are giving enough awareness to the students from day one itself. But of course, there are a lot of reasons like peer pressure, like stress. The point is, most of the time the students don't open up. They don't open up to the faculty. So they just withdraw into a shell, and they try to seek their own solutions. So that is the result that we are seeing. But of course, what I would recommend is the students should be completely focused. When they come to the college, especially the UG students, they should remember that their primary objective is academic. They have come there for earning a degree, and the primary focus should be on that. And all the other things should be ignored. See, what happens is many a time this stress or any deviations, they stem from some trivial issue like interpersonal problems and things like that. So many a time people are not willing to forget and go along, right? So they just keep on thinking about this, pondering over this, and it just blows up into a big problem. And finally, that is how the stress results, especially among students. So what they should understand right from the beginning is that the primary objective for which they have come to the institution is for studying. And once that focus is there, then all the other extraneous factors which cause these stress will they just vanish, right? So that is my take on it. Of course, these practices can definitely help students to de-stress, but the problem is they should practice. They should show at least some willpower to follow these practices. So there should be some minimum discipline that has to be there. And unless that is there, anyway, it's a kind of chicken egg problem, right? If they practice, they can handle stress. But if they are stressed, they will not be willing to practice. So this is one problem which I see among students. So this has to be clearly told from the beginning itself. Of course, we do tell them, but many a time it doesn't reach.
Right, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can, sir.
Yes.
So, on behalf of IEEE PS Kerala chapter, I want to thank you, Dr. Ishram, sir, for your kindful advices and your fruitful insights. So, once again, thank you, sir, on behalf of IEEE PS Kerala chapter, and also thanks for myself also. And yeah, I think it will be good, and it will be streamed in YouTube also. So it will be good for students. I will can share to as much as students because it's a short notice, so that's why there's less number of students, I think so. So yeah, thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, and we will try to catch it up, and we will meet in campus soon, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Good night, sir. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.